Well, happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, September 14th in the year 2021, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom, brought to you by the Best Girl consulting firm. Heroes aren't born. Most of the time, they are thrust into a situation or a circumstance that requires them to act with courage or either shrink from the responsibility of the situation. Mr. Harold Franklin died this past week. Mr. Franklin was a hero of mine. In 1964, under court order, he became the first Black student at Auburn University. He entered the university as a graduate student pursuing a master's degree after having to sue the university for admittance. Federal Judge Frank Johnson Jr. ruled in 1963 that Auburn had to allow him to enroll. Mr. Franklin did not last long at the university. He was assigned to a wing of a dormitory all to himself. With his thesis being repeatedly rejected, he decided he would leave, and he got his master's degree somewhere else. In 2001, Auburn honored Mr. Franklin as its first Black student by awarding him an honorary doctorate of arts. A historic marker sits next to the Auburn University Library, where he first registered for classes. Mr. Franklin at last defended his master's thesis successfully on February 19th, 2020, 56 years after he entered the university. And he finally participated in commencement exercises last December in Auburn. Mr. Franklin was modest, unassuming, and when talking about his unsuccessful enrollment at the university, he never spoke with anger. He was always there when the university called on him. Those of us who followed him learned much from his example. Mr. Harold Franklin, a hero of mine. Today's G-List guest is another man who was instrumental in my life, one of my lifelong teammates. As a matter of fact, that's what we call ourselves, teammates for life, a good friend, and the man who has put together a charitable golf tournament honoring two men from the 1972 Auburn team known as the Amazons. You know, when you think about the work that went into making that team, you think about all the things that happened, and a news reporter from that era, I think after we beat Tennessee, who was ranked, I don't know, number 2, number 3 in the country, something like that. They had a heck of a team. The reporter nicknamed us the Amazons because of it was amazing that we could win a game. I think we were predicted to be like number 115 out of 120 teams. We were only predicted to win 2 games. We ended up winning 10, losing 1, and finishing number 5 in the country. And Roger and I will talk a little bit about that. But Mr. Roger Mychal is in partnership with the Auburn Football Letterman's Club, has put together the 1972 Amazons Golf Tournament, with proceeds going to the James Owens Foundation and the family of Lee Carpenter, 2 of our teammates who have gone on before us. I look forward to hearing from Roger and talking with him and sharing some stories. Roger is the first guy that I ever heard use the term teammates for life, which is how we refer to ourselves, as teammates for life. Okay, the G-List is sponsored by Mainstream Financial Group. Mainstream Financial brings financial vision and clarity to your retirement plans. Don't let your money run out before you do. On Tuesday with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl consulting firm. Best Girl is, and we'll take it away.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly Gossom, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
It's the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace Edwards and Mychal Walker. Barbara Wallace Edwards is a Mobile, Alabama native. She's currently living in Birmingham. I don't know where she is today. She'll just have to tell us where she is. Barbara, how are you, first of all, and where are you?
Good morning, Thom. I'm doing well, thank you. I am back in Birmingham in the office of Jeff Matthews Web Solutions again this morning.
Okay.
So I'm doing well.
Okay, very good, very good. I happen to be in Birmingham today myself, and I'll be here for a couple more days.
Right.
So, Barbara, what's happening in your world?
Not much, Thom. Catching up on some football this past weekend. Glad to see that our Auburn Tigers are doing well so far. We'll see how things go. We go to Penn State, of course, this weekend, and it's an all-white game. I think Penn State's wearing white, and Auburn fans are wearing white. So it's going to be interesting to see how that game goes.
Well, that's interesting. We always wore white on the road.
Right.
That was we did. We wore the blue jerseys at home.
Mm-hmm. This is the fans. They're asking the fans that are attending the game to wear white this time.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see if that helps.
Yes.
If it helps, good.
No.
If it doesn't, what can I say?
Absolutely.
Let's bring Mychal Walker on. Mychal Walker owns the Walker Insurance Agency. He's in Atlanta, Georgia. He's actually from Alabama. But Mychal, how are you this morning?
I am doing well, Thom. I hope you and Barbara both are doing well also.
I'm doing pretty good, I heard you guys talking earlier behind the scenes about the football game last night with who was it? The Raiders. Isn't that how
Las Vegas Raiders.
The Las Vegas Raiders. And what are they? Baltimore Ravens? They
Yes.
move around so much. It's like, so anyway, Mychal, what's going on with you?
Well, Thom, I like to say that, Delta Airlines, they were in the press recently about charging their employees $200 monthly for a surcharge because their healthcare calculation shows that they pay $50,000 per person that goes in the hospital due to COVID. And since they have done that, about 20% of Delta's unvaccinated employees have gotten the vaccine since they implemented the $200 a month surcharge. However, they have 80,000 employees and there are 20,000 that still remain unvaccinated. And what they found is that, there have been people that have been offering financial incentives and everything like that to get people vaccinated. But in Delta's case, they found out that by charging people a penalty for not getting vaccinated is what's turned the tide in their area. One other thing I'd like to mention is that the House Ways Means Committee, along with Energy and Commerce, they were meeting this past Friday, and they are discussing a couple things. One is some legislations that will allow the government to negotiate on 250 different medications that's currently out on the market. If they're able to negotiate and demand lower costs from the drug manufacturers, that would save the government $450 billion.
Wow.
Medicare drug costs. In addition to that, the Democrats on the House Ways and Means Committee are looking to do a couple of things. They have approved a proposal that will open up $400 million in grants for the next 3 years to help increase the pay of nursing home staff and to provide more care for them. And also, under Biden's $3.5 trillion economic plan, one way the Democrats are looking to pay for that is to implement new taxes on cryptocurrency and a couple of other things like that. Alcohol, that will save or generate $16 billion in additional funding and $96 billion also will come from the nicotine and tobacco. The $16 billion will be derived by limiting deductions of executive pay in the industries.
So let me ask a question. Do you own cryptocurrency?
I do not, but I have been looking into it. I have been kind of hesitant about getting into it, but the more and more that I hear and read in the financial circles, they are saying that it's probably going to be here to stay. And the government is looking at ways to get into it from a tax standpoint.
What
And
the hell
a
is
lot
it?
of, huh?
What is it?
What is cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
Well, that's like Bitcoin. You heard of Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the problem with it is there isn't a government backing, so to speak, like resources and stuff from a government to support it. So that's why it looks kind of like it may not be here to stay. At least with the U.S., it has the full backing of the United States government on the dollar. You don't have that with cryptocurrency.
There was some false information that went out yesterday that Walmart was going to start accepting, I think it was a Bitcoin or some type of cryptocurrency. And the prices just, went up dramatically. And then Walmart came out with a statement and said that was totally false. So they don't know where it actually started, but it wasn't true.
Hey, man, probably on social media somewhere.
Oh, yes.
Because, if it was on Facebook, it's true, right?
It's true. That's right.
Yeah. Well, I do know a lot of people. I saw a story about some guy, I think he was over in India somewhere. He has been investing a lot of money in cryptocurrency, and they are supposedly the wealthiest family of cryptocurrency now. And they're going through all of these different gyrations to protect their identity and their security and all this type of stuff, because the money, but I understand you have to put it into a certain type of vault, like an online vault or some stuff like that. It's where you store it and protect it. It all seems a little bit too
futuristic.
Yeah.
So who's getting the money? I still don't understand. You use money to buy this cryptocurrency. So who's actually getting the money?
Well, they haven't really revealed that yet.
Okay.
I'm not really sure who is getting the money. I know that Robinhood, which is one of those new applications where you can invest on your own and stuff. You remember where they had a bunch of people that made a bunch of money with Robinhood? It's one of the apps to get new investors and stuff. So I think they're starting to dabble into it. And I read where I think it was maybe Goldman Sachs and one of the other companies like that have dedicated a whole department for cryptocurrency.
Wow.
Well, I still like that green money. And, just when you get a little green money, they change the rules.
To something else, exactly.
Well, we got some more different money over here.
Right. It's changed a little bit. That your green money's not gonna be as good anymore, Thom. So
you're just a little bit out of luck, buddy. So let's talk about Mr. Harold Franklin for a few minutes. And Barbara, I know you did some work with him and pretty close. So talk about Mr. Franklin for a few minutes, please.
What can you say more than he was a wonderful, wonderful man? I mean, I've never met a more perfect gentleman. Whenever I was in his presence, I really, truly felt like I was in the presence of royalty. And I had a chance to speak with him on the phone about 4 months ago, and he was always the just kind, sweet, thoughtful, intelligent. He was always asking how I was doing and, how was everyone else doing. And I tried to keep him informed about what was going on in Auburn, and actually put him in touch with one of the former football coaches at Auburn, Coach Travis Williams, wanted to reach out to him and thank him for what he had done for all of Auburn University, and especially the Black alums at Auburn University. And Dr. Franklin was always so grateful that I presented that opportunity to him to meet Coach Travis Williams and get that his personalized Auburn jersey. And
Oh, that's great.
yeah, he was just a wonderful, wonderful gentleman.
Mychal, I can't imagine going to a college and being placed in a wing of the dormitory all by yourself. I mean, what kind of a college experience is that? There are no students around you. And I love his comment when we asked him about how did it feel to be placed in a wing all by himself. He said, well, I guess they thought I was going to harm somebody, you know? And Mychal, your impressions?
Well, the question, to answer your question, what kind of experience is that? I'd say it was a lonely experience.
Very much so.
Brought to a school like Auburn University and being the first African American on campus, you know, not only the first, the only one on campus.
Yes.
And having to deal with people that do not want you there, including your professors and everybody else, and you're there just to learn. I couldn't imagine what that's like. That's truly, you know, Thom, a thing that we always say in sports is us against the world. That was certainly Dr. Franklin against the world in that time.
Right.
Well, let's, you know, full disclosure, as far as I know, he was pretty much asked to do this by Mr. Fred Gray, the civil rights attorney.
Yes.
So he knew that he would not be welcomed.
Yes.
He knew that this was going to be tough. I just don't think you could imagine how tough it was going to be. And to show up with 99 state troopers escorting him to campus, searching him for guns and weapons, and repeatedly having his thesis rejected. I think he left. He started in January and left around April, something like that, and had pretty much had as much as he could take. And you know, history is interesting, and most universities have these long histories of things that have happened and people that they have honored. And sometimes you find out later, well, you know, this guy was this or what have you, or this woman was that. And so then you have discussions as to what you should do about that. And, you know, Mr. Franklin, they finally put a little, I don't know what you call it, a marker on the side of the library. I was part of that ceremony where he came, and you know,
and actually, Thom, that marker is really a desegregation marker. It's not a marker in honor of him. His name is in very small print on that particular marker. So people want to say they've done something in Auburn to really honor him. That really wasn't in his personal honor. But
I think the thing about him that's so interesting is you picked up on that. I picked up on that. Anybody who sees the monument picks up on that. But he never said anything negative.
Never.
He never got angry about it. He would drive down initially from where he lived when they asked him to come to campus. And, you know, some of us who were first, I used to call it, you know, with me, they would trot their show pony out when they needed to have the show pony be on an exhibit. See, we got one over here.
Right.
But unlike some of us who would get angry about it, Mr. Franklin never got angry about it. At least he never exhibited any anger towards the university. And so I think the university was very, very blessed to have him to be the first.
Most definitely.
Thom, you made a comment earlier about him defending his thesis so many times and it was rejected, and finally they approved it in 2020, I think. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, if I have my dates wrong.
That's correct.
What were the reasons his thesis was rejected all those times before, and when they finally accepted it, what changed about the thesis?
Well, I can't speak specifically, I don't know all the facts. Barbara may know more than me. I do know that he wanted to write about civil rights. He wanted his thesis to be about civil rights. He had already graduated from Alabama State
That's correct.
College, I think it was, in a university at the time. And far as I can tell, Barbara, you may know more, his thesis ideas were just rejected.
Well,
outright.
his original thesis ideas were rejected, but they asked him to write about a different topic, and I think it was just the history of Alabama State College, and so he did. He wrote about the actual topic they recommended, and they just kept finding just small little things, Mychal. One word was misplaced, or that a particular word didn't fit in that particular sentence, and so every little thing that he would go back and fix that, and they find something else wrong, and he finally said, you're never going to approve it. I'll give up and go somewhere else, and he did, and I credit Dr. Abair at Auburn, who's been on our show, who actually made contact with Dr. Franklin, asked him if he still had his original thesis, and he did. And he said, there was really nothing wrong with it. After they reviewed it, there was actually nothing wrong with it. He was able to go back and defend his thesis. And of course, he received his master's. And it's just a shame that he had to go through all of that.
And I understand that he had to have like an oral dissertation or whatever, and he stood and talked. I mean, what was he, like 85 at the time or something?
Yes.
And basically, without interruption, delivered this oral dissertation.
Absolutely. And I understand there wasn't a dry eye in the room once he finished. That it was just so emotional for everyone that was there. Again, they all felt ashamed that he had to go through all of that.
I just think this, and history is. I said this to one of the senior administrators. Our history is our history, and you don't necessarily have to be proud of it, but you do have to admit what it is, so that people can learn from it.
Absolutely.
When I go to campus, and I have to speak to an honors class that I've spoken to the last couple of years or so. To me, those young people are so willing to learn about history, so willing to listen to what you have to say and ask questions about it. They don't have to be ashamed because they didn't do anything.
Right.
And so that's the part I don't understand, why we can't talk about it, why we can't have open minds about it, if in fact you didn't have anything to do with it.
Right.
Now, if you want to preserve that, you can preserve the history without preserving the stuff behind the history.
Right.
Because the stuff behind the history was not okay. Anyway.
Well, I just want to add, Thom, that I do hope that the university Auburn University will make some type of significant memorial in honor of Dr. Franklin. The naming of a building, I think, will be very appropriate in his honor, or a statue, because again, what he did for Auburn University was just tremendous. And I don't know of anyone else that has made that level of contribution to the university.
Mychal, you said it was a lonely experience. I think what sums that up more than anything is that photo of him walking across campus,
yes,
by himself, with nobody else in the photo but him.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Special guy.
Yeah.
I have a photo of Mr. Franklin, Dr. Franklin, James Owen, of course, the first African-American football player, and myself.
Wow.
And I'm really, really proud of that.
You need to cherish that one, Thom. That's great.
Yes. Anything else from either one of you?
I would just like to say that I had the opportunity to hear Dr. Franklin speak at Auburn once, and he had a statement in his speech. He was talking about supporting everyone and everyone needing help from time to time, regardless who they are. And he had this one statement. He said, if you ever go across the road and you see a turtle sitting on a fence post, you know he had some help getting there.
Mm.
He likened himself to that regardless of what all he went through, he had some help.
Mm. You know, and he was married when he came to Auburn, had a child,
Yes,
I think.
he did.
So, and
Wow.
I don't know if I know he had the wing on campus, but I think he went to Montgomery during the evenings and went home. I don't know that for sure, but okay. Let's is anything else from you guys?
No.
No.
Okay, well, let's move on. We're getting a little feedback from somebody, so maybe Emily can send a comment to whomever needs to do something to get rid of this echo that we keep hearing, if we can. Okay, so let's move on. The G List. The G List is where everybody is a star, and it's sponsored by Mainstream Financial Group. So let's bring on Mainstream.
Mainstream Financial Group provides financial services for both individuals and businesses. Mainstream's mission is to understand the unique needs of every client and work closely with you, assembling a team to develop and manage your resources to help you accomplish your defined financial goals. Mainstream's financial professionals will provide you with a complimentary, no obligation financial review. Now, these professionals can then offer you custom advice to mend together the pieces of your financial life and come up with a plan that is truly comprehensive. Mainstream Financial assists retirees and those close to retirement in planning for a secure retirement so not to run out of money during your lifetime. You can take advantage of opportunities with tailored advice and the resources to act on it. Mainstream Financial Group, www.mainstreamfg.com, 205-324-0589.
If you're thinking about retiring, or if you just retired, you certainly want to think about contacting Mainstream Financial Group. The last thing you want is to retire and let your money run out before you do. So let's get to our G List guest for today. Remember, Hollywood has the A List, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G List, where everybody is a star. And our G List guest today is my teammate for life, Roger Mychal. Roger Mychal is a former Auburn football player. He graduated, and I didn't know this, Roger. He graduated with a degree in aerospace engineering in 1974. I'll guarantee you we didn't have many guys on our teams that graduated in aerospace engineering. Roger, you may have been the only one, and may have been the only one since then. Who knows? Roger retired in 2013. He enjoys golf. He serves on the board of the James Owens Foundation, where he has 2 daughters, I want to mention, and 3 precious granddaughters. And Roger is putting together with the Auburn Football Letterman's Club golf tournament that will benefit the James Owens Foundation and the Lee Carpenter family. It's a 4-person scramble. It's on September 21. Roger will let you know if you still want to play. You got time to get in it. So let's bring on Roger Mychal here. Roger, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Thom. I'm doing great. Thank you for
Good to
having
see
me.
you, man. Oh, man, it's always good. Always good. Teammates for life. You're the one that I remember started that. And we go by that.
We do, and that whole group has been extremely close. And excuse me, I get choked up talking about it. I really do. Coach Dye told me that group, our group, has really given back more to Auburn than any other group that he knows of, and I'm proud of that.
It was a special group, and I think when everybody tells you're not any good, and they tell your coach, you need to retire because these guys ain't worth a crap. You're gonna go out a big loser if you coach these guys. And I guess we took that challenge on.
We
Go
did.
ahead.
Well, in the secondary where I played, we were going against Terry Beasley, Alvin Bressel, Sandy Cannon. We had a Heisman Trophy winner throwing the ball. Had Ralph Brock behind him. Dave Lyons could sling it with anybody. I mean, we were going against the best. And when we got into a game, it was like Steelers. Nobody was as good as what we'd been practicing against. And it helped us. I mean, it really did. And the wishbone, we lost against Alabama the last game of 71. And then Oklahoma ran that wishbone down our throat down at the Sugar Bowl. And a week later, we were up under that stadium learning how to stop the wishbone. And we were hiding because we weren't supposed to be there. But we learned how to stop it.
I say we had spring training from January to May.
I think we had 1 week off that year.
And they brought in Coach Mars to teach us how to block. And they had an 8-man sled. And you'd have to line up 8 guys, and he would stand on the back of it and ride it. And you had to push it 100 yards down the field and then push it 100 yards back. And everybody had to do it.
Oh, yeah. The first scrimmage, we went 7 quarters. First team against first team. Simmons was playing baseball. I mean, they finally let him play baseball, so I was playing safe. And, they would come up, y'all would come up to the line of scrimmage, point to the hole where you're going to run the ball.
That's right.
And say it's on 2. And of course, we would blow it up. And I think Henley had like 72 carries for about 70 yards. And
don't tell him that now.
Oh yeah, it was it was stacked against him. And finally, said, "Okay, we're gonna do goal line." They hadn't made a first down, I don't think, in about 3 quarters.
That's right.
So we go down to the 10-yard line, and they huddle up for the first time. I mean, they came up to the line of scrimmage. I was on the tight end, Nugent, about 250.
Yeah, easily.
They didn't tell us where they were going to run it, and they ran a little influence play and gave it to the Big O, and the Big O was running downfield, and I was playing off Nugent, and he put me up against that tarpaulin in the south end zone. He rolled me up, and he reached down to help me, and he said, "You little DBs like a bunch of gnats. Y'all get on out of the way now. Get out of the
way." They put me at safety. Well, they would always make you play another position in the spring.
Yeah.
They put me at safety, and I was back there, and they ran just straight up the middle, and that hole opened up, and the Big O came through that hole with that horse collar on. He was bucking, and I had to make a life and death decision, man. It was, I did like Dion. I made a business decision, It's like,
yeah.
I went for his ankles, It's like,
good
I
point.
can get paralyzed out here, man. This guy's serious. It was just absolutely. I don't know. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through, but certainly it was the most rewarding thing I had been through as well. And I remember, we only had, like you say, we would run the same play over and over and over again, and the defense would know the play, and it was just. And I remember we went to play Tennessee, and I don't know, what were they, number 2, number 3 in the country? They were they were tough, and.
We had practiced for 2 weeks against it, though. We didn't do any work to get ready for Chattanooga, and we barely squeaked by and won.
We did
14-7.
14-7. Yeah. and so we were playing Tennessee, and man, we're just running 27 slant and 21 power the whole dang time, right off right tackle and off the guard. and you know, the other teams don't know that we only got about 7 plays. You know, like our defense knew, the other team didn't know. And so I was coming back to the huddle with their safety, and he was jogging along beside me, and he said, "Man, y'all ain't gonna run that same play again, are you?" I said, "More than likely." Here we come.
Until they stop it.
So tell us about the golf tournament.
Well, we're having a celebrity classic, amazing celebrity classic, we call it. We'll have a lot of the Amazings there. We'll have a coach and maybe I'll be and hopefully a cheerleader or two. But the objective is just to get back together, have fun. If we make a little bit of money, we're going to give that to the James Owens Foundation and the Lee Carpenter Scholarship Fund. You know, unlike you and me, who are prone to get into some mischief, I never heard either one of those two boys ever say a cuss word.
They were good guys. They were
great people, and
James was my roommate, and James was, you know, I never. It was integration, and we've talked about that, but nobody ever bothered me because I was roommates with James. So I had a protector, you know. It's like, but Lee Carpenter, man, they were just two quality men,
fine people,
you know, great.
And their
great
families are too, and we're excited.
Good deal. Well, hopefully it'll go well. Now it's on the 21st, and can people still get in?
Yes, we have room for about 10 or 12 more golfers. So call me. I'm at 205-329-8492. Get you registered if you want to play. It's on a Tuesday, the 21st, because you can't have anything on Friday of a game day because all the courses are all full. So we're having it on a Tuesday, which normally AU Club is closed. But it's going to be very informal. The whole thing is just to have fun and you know, teammates for life. Just see each other and hug on one another.
That's great. And we've got a couple guys that are sick. Randy Walls and Ed Butler.
Randy Walls is going to be there. As a matter of fact, he's going to play with Jeff and Andy Carpenter.
Good.
He's playing with their group, and he's got his son Holland. And you know, Randy is our best player. He's the best golfer of the bunch.
Randy was a really good athlete.
Oh man!
You know, if they had coached confidence, Randy would have been. I mean, you know, Randy was our quarterback. He led us to number 5 in the country. He was 10-1. I don't think they ever coached confidence in him. You know, do you remember the Mississippi State game when he comes out with his jersey on backwards?
Jersey backwards. Yeah, that was the first game.
And he's sitting there, and we're warming up, and he's hyperventilating, and he said, "Thomas, I can't breathe. I can't breathe." And I said, "What's wrong?" He said, I just can't breathe. And I looked at him. I said, "Man, you got your jersey on backwards."
He's good as gold.
Yes, he is. Yes, and Ed Butler
and
is
well. Ed
in my suite. Yeah, they are. Ed is. I spoke to Coach Malzahn's last team. I guess it was last year, and they asked me to come in and speak about the integration experience, and then they asked me if I knew somebody a white guy who could come in and speak about the integration experience as well. And I got Ed because he was in my suite and he was from Atlanta, and you know, Ed was just a great guy. He was one of the first freshmen to play varsity. You know, when they changed the
football
rule.
Player too.
And so I know Ed's sick, and so I've talked to him a couple of times, and just a great guy. Both of them are, and so we wish him the best. I got to ask you one question before I bring Barbara and Mychal on. So the Amazings, people have talked about it. People have said they want to make movies about it, so on and so forth. If there was a movie made about the Amazings, do you think it would be better served to be a feature where you end up adding stuff that didn't really happen or what have you, or a documentary where you basically go for what I call truth?
Well, you know, we lost one game, and we were wearing blue on the road because we were playing LSU, and they like to wear those white helmets. If they would take that out, because that wasn't mine and Beck's best night.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
remember.
remember.
Oh my gosh! Their quarterback, who was the Ruston Rifle, rolled left. I came off of my man, moving over to the center to try to make a play, make an interception, and he threw off his back foot and threw that ball 6 yards. And as soon as he let it go, I said, "Oh!" I felt the wind, and that was the only time I got beat deep. And I still have nightmares about it to this day.
Well, it was a game that got away fast, and
Yes,
I
it
remember
did. We had some turnovers.
Beck went up for the interception, man, and it just barely went over his fingertips, and the guy caught it for a touchdown. And it was just sometimes the game gets but also we had so many young guys on our team. I mean, we had like 6 sophomores. Freshmen didn't play. We had 6 sophomores on offense. None of us had ever played in Tiger Stadium before. And you go down there, man, and those people were drunk and loud, and they were ready. They put Mike the Tiger right outside of our locker room. We run out of the locker room, and there's this big tiger there, and he growls, and we all run back in the locker room. And then we go to the wrong end of the field, and we're warming up, and they come and make us move. So it was just one of those nights. And
yeah, it was. They caught us perfectly too. Sansbury was bummed up. We couldn't really get any pressure on the quarterback. There were a lot of little things that.
Yes.
So if we were ready to play them again at the end of the season, thought we might in a bowl game, but we got Colorado, who had been #1 in the country most of the year, and we put a hurting on them.
We spanked them. I'll just tell you one quick story, and I'll get Mychal and them in here. Right towards the end of the game, I mean, they're beating us 35-7, and the game's pretty much over. And something happened, and I was coming back to the huddle, and Charlie Mack, their coach, Charlie McClendon, is out on the field just cussing. I mean, he's cussing the referees out, and he's going on. And so I just looked at him, and I said, "Man, get off the field." He turned to me. And he said, "F you." I said, "Okay, then. You're serious, right?" Anyway, let me get Barbara and Mychal. I know they got a couple questions for you. Barbara, you got a question for Roger?
I do. Roger, how are you this morning?
Just fine, Barbara.
Great. First, I want to thank you for serving on the board of the James Owens Foundation. I'm also a board member, and thank you for taking on the challenge. Yeah, thank you for coordinating this golf tournament. This is going to be I hope a major fundraiser for the organization. Well, talk to us about who's going to actually be there. How many of the Amazons are going to actually be in attendance, and other former Auburn players we have there at the golf tournament?
Well, we do have a good number. I've got a team up. Rusty Dean, David Hughes, who doesn't even play golf, is coming up from Tampa. Rusty Fuller is going to be there. Johnny Simmons, Kenny Burks, Rick Neal, Rick Harbaugh, Mike Neal, our captain Mike, Mac Lorindo is going to be there. Terry Henley will be there, and he'll have knickers on, and he'll be he'll be having fun, and he is a hoot. Lee Gross will be there with his boys. Bill Newton will be there with Will Newton and a couple of others. Alvin Bressler, who actually had graduated, is putting together a team. Thom Gossom has put together a team. We're gonna miss you, Thom. We'll be. We got a whole group. Then we have some other guys who kind of looked up to our team, and they were pretty good too. They had a guy named Bo playing for them. Randy Campbell, Dow Altman, David Jordan, and Jan Cowart have a team. And then Andy and Jeff Carpenter, who are the sons of Lee Carpenter, are there, and they're going to play with our quarterback that year, Randy Walls, and his son, Holland Walls. Randy might play only 9 holes, but let me tell you, Thom, I played with him last week. He was a little emotional. We rode together. He played 9 holes, was 1 under par. Said he wasn't feeling real good. I said, you know, when you can shoot 1 under par and you ain't feeling good, woo, boy, still play.
He's a good athlete. He's a good basketball player. Yeah, he really was. So if Rusty Fuller's coming, is Gates coming? Because you know, if Gates comes and Rusty's there, they're gonna get in a fight. They
don't even bring it up.
They would fight at least once a week, you know.
Listen, one night, Mike and I got into it. He didn't know who he was, but he busted my little brother who was a junior in high school, and of course I went looking for him, and I got a running start and smacked him as hard as I could. Broke my hand. Didn't even phase him. I was just looking. Some people were there to break it up.
Yeah. They fought like cowboys. Yeah.
Gator is he's a gentleman farmer down in Pineapple, Alabama. But if he comes up, he might just ride around.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get Mychal and Barbara on here. Barbara, what questions you got for Roger?
Well, Roger, I also want to ask you about, you know, I understand you moved back to Auburn, you said about 2 years ago, and you graduated from Auburn in 1974. And I know you probably came back to visit campus quite often, but like you, I graduated in 1979, moved to Auburn for a short period of time in 2014, I think. And I was just amazed at all of the changes in Auburn. What do you think about all of that, what's going on in Auburn, and how it has changed since you graduated?
It looks nowhere near like it did. I mean, it's amazing what has happened. In this 79,000 people live in Auburn now, not counting students. It was probably around 15 or 18 when we were here. I don't know how many, but it wasn't you know. But it is amazing, and it's you go on campus, and you know, Thom, we were talking earlier about didn't have many black students when we were playing. We got plenty of black students, Asian students, and I will say this: it is a tremendous and inclusive university now, and it's fun to go to athletic office and see all the. I mean, everybody meshes, and it's good. It makes you feel good. It really does. I'm just proud to. I'm proud to be a part of it, be close to it. I still go to ball games, and I'm looking forward to us having a good season. I like our new coach. I really do. I had a good chat with him at one of the practices. He's tough. He is tough, and he doesn't like to put up with BS. But I'm saying it's. I went from table to table, and I sat down with a lot of the players, and I talked with them, and man, they respect him and they like him, and so I look forward to have a good year. I don't know how talented we are, but I think we're going to be getting better.
They got him another Suge Jordan, it looks like, huh? Coach Jordan would tell you where to park your car in the parking lot. And he'd go out there sometimes and make sure all the cars were parked in between the lines. If he wasn't having a good day, he'd find something to get on us about, you know?
Yeah, he would.
He'd look at, he said, when I say be here at 3 o'clock, I don't mean 3 o'clock by your watch. I don't mean 3 o'clock by that clock up there on Sanford Tower. I mean 3 o'clock by my watch. That's the only watch that counts. Okay, coach, we'll be here by your.
Wow.
So it was always, well, let's get over there about 15 minutes early so we won't take a chance on being late, you know. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, football's a tough sport. You got to have a tough coach. I can tell that the way he talked earlier that he was going to be tougher and that they were going to be tougher. And you have to have that to win. Mychal, what you got?
On mute. My question for you, Roger, and good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
My question is, with your major being in aerospace engineering, did you have dreams of going to work for NASA or becoming an astronaut?
I certainly did, and I was kind of built for it. The early astronauts were short and compact, but I had a few head injuries, semi-concussions. Mine were fairly severe, a couple of them. One of them on the opening kickoff against Tennessee in '72. And back then, I went right back into the game. Had to. Simmons was bunged up on a bad ankle, and but I had severe seizures until I was about 37 or 8. So I couldn't even get my pilot's license, unfortunately. But I don't look back on it with malice. I look back on it. Thank goodness they had something to control them, and I just got after it in the business world and went on about my business. But yeah, I wanted to fly. I wanted to do the whole 9 yards, but just wasn't to be.
I think the cure for everything back then was get my aspirin and put some ice on it. He'll be all right.
Listen, we had some a lot worse than I was, like Beasley and some others.
Yeah, he did. He took a lot of licks, man. I hear you. Barbara, Mychal, you got any other questions for Roger?
Well, my other question I wanted to ask him was about him being a certified financial planner, and you kind of did that a little bit later on. I guess you just like math and finance and all that type of stuff. Tell us a little bit about your CFP practice.
Well, I went to work as an engineer for Redmond Industries, and they were in the mobile home industry. And I worked hard with them, and I did well. And my first wife was killed in a car wreck. She was injured badly. So I was a single parent, had to get my daughter in school. So I moved back to Eufaula, Alabama, to raise her and continue with my life. And my ex-coach at Auburn was in the financial business, Sam Mychal. He said, "This is what you ought to do." Well, I did it, and I wanted to do it and do the best that I could. So I went on and got all the designations I could get and became a certified financial planner. But it was hard to scrape a living in Barber County, Alabama, because it was very few people that had the money to invest. So after I got Bridges back in school, I remarried, had another child right off the bat. Got my family back stabilized. I went back into the manufactured housing industry and where I could make a really good living, and did that. But I still, I still follow it. I don't do my own money because I'm not licensed to do it now. But I did get all the designations you could get at the time, and I'm kind of proud of that because it wasn't easy. Back then, it was a 2-year ordeal. You had to be in the business 5 years before you could take the first test, and then you took a series of 6 exams over 2 years. And I think I finished in the top 5% in the country when I got mine. I was proud of that.
Good deal.
That's great.
You mentioned Coach Mychal and who coached the secondary.
He's good.
And you guys, and he was, I'll say short. He wasn't very tall.
He's shorter than I was.
And all the DBs were short, and they called them Mitchell's Midgets. That was his name.
That's exactly right.
I remember that. So,
Roger, Kansas City came down to Auburn, and they wanted to see Langdon work out. And Coach Mitchell said, I want you to work out with. Well, I was more interested in trying to turn pro than David was, even though he was, you know, a heck of an athlete. It was raining hard that day. So Coach Mitchell took us into the gym, and the track team was in there, and they had the bar at about 6'4". Well, Langdon and I both went over and scissored it. Langdon could grab the rim, and he could dunk a football. I could grab the rim and do about 3 or 4 chins on it. And Coach Mitchell said, these boys play bigger than they are. Because that coach, after he weighed us, neither one of us broke 170. I think we were both 168 or 9.
Wow.
And they said, I don't think we need to see him work out. So, they had, you know, Kansas City was good. They had Jimmy Marsalis, Emmett Thomas. They had a strong secondary.
Yeah.
And they were 6'1", 6'2",
That's right.
210, 212.
That's right.
But we were quicker than they were. You know, I was done after those concussions, and Langdon decided he didn't show for rookie cap. But that was our extent into pro football. We worked out a couple of times.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, good deal. I remember, you know, we talked about being freshmen. We were both walk-ons, and
yes.
And that experience. And I remember, you know, when the wishbone came out and how hard it was to learn to defend it, how hard it was for our defense. And so, as a freshman walk-on, they would put a scrap-up team together, and we would run the offensive play. We'd run the wishbone. And you remember Ken Higdon? He was a quarterback. Higdon were on the scout team, and they hadn't figured that wishbone out. And Higdon rode that fullback into the line and came out, and he pitched that thing to me. And somebody made a mistake, and I hit that crease, man. And I went by 50 yards for a touchdown. I was so happy. I was jumping up and down or whatever. And Coach Davis, the defense coach, he was so pissed, and he said, "Okay, run it again." It's like, well, damn, they're gonna be waiting on me.
They're gonna be there next time.
Oh man, they lit me up that next time. I knew better. I learned you don't score a touchdown on the first team defense. Not in practice. Oh, Roger, you got anything else you want to tell us before we leave? I appreciate you being here. I'm glad you're doing that for James and Lee's families, and it's just wonderful. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you very much.
It's been inspirational, and it's been a joy to be a part of it. And thank you for having me very much.
Okay. All right. Okay, for my closing commentary, I'd like to say COVID is still the #1 issue in the country, and it's become a polarizing issue, primarily because of politicians, and I don't care which side you're on. Wearing a mask and getting a shot, how can that be polarizing? It's amazing how we allow politicians to divide us. Just remember that your freedom ends where mine begins, and my freedom ends where yours begin. If we remember that and live like that, then maybe we can all get along. I will leave you with 3 of the Native American 10 Commandments. Number 1, treat the earth and all who dwell upon it with respect. Number 2, show great respect for your fellow human beings and work together for the good of mankind. And that's how I see it on this Tuesday, September 14th in the year 2021. That's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank Mychal and Barbara. Thank our G-List guests, my teammate for life, Roger Mitchell. Our upcoming G-List guests on TWT are Francis Tate from Ciota, celebrating early Old Town with art. We're going to talk about a proposed Scottsboro Boys Museum in Decatur, Alabama. Sam Johnson, the man with the big smile. David Shifter, a film producer out of North Carolina. and Marshall Walker, the brother of Jackie Walker from Knoxville, Tennessee. I want to thank our sponsors, Best Girl Inc. and Mainstream Financial Group. If you want to recommend somebody to be a G-list guest, please get in touch with us at Thom@bestgirl or Emily@bestgirl.com. I want to thank Emily Hedrick, the communicator. She's our producer. Thank Sean Jones, the organizer. Thank Joyce Gilly Gossom. Remember to enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.